Okay, the next speaker for the day coined the term super promoter and is here to walk us through what he claims is the best kept secret of marketing. The best advertising is no advertising. Learn how to build your super promoters, those enthusiastic customers who will work for you and grow your business like no advertising budget can ever do. To hear it from the man himself, please welcome on stage Mr. Rijn Vogelaar. This session brought to you by Godrej Properties and Angels Unleashed.
It's a privilege to be here today and to talk to you about dynamics of enthusiasm. Until about 3.5 years ago, I was the CEO of a market research agency, and we did a lot of customer satisfaction research. But actually, at some point, I realized it was not customer satisfaction research at all. It was customer dissatisfaction research. And we always focus on the dissatisfied customers. Our management summaries were like the 10 points to improve on make the customers more satisfied. So at some point I started to realize it's not the dissatisfied customers that make your business big. It's the enthusiastic customers that make your business big. So why don't we focus on them? So I started to focus on them and I started to search for research on enthusiasm. And I couldn't find any in science. I've traveled around the world. If any of you has research in India on enthusiasm, please send me an email because I'm still looking for it. There's research on happiness, there's research on flow. I couldn't find research on enthusiasm. So I started to do research myself and I focused on enthusiastic customers. But let's start with the basic. We all know what enthusiasm is. Every place in the world where I go, everybody knows what enthusiasm is because we've all felt it. And obviously if we feeling good, we feel it even probably every day a little bit. And apart from that, we are all born. Wherever you are born in the world, you are born with a kind of inhibited enthusiasm. Especially young children until the age of 4 or 5. They have like an enthusiasm and they don't care if the world, they show it to the world, they show it to everybody. Now I've got 2 sons, they are 7 and 10. And nowadays, I'm not allowed to kiss them anymore when I bring them to school. Because they watch me and say, oh, my friends are watching. No, Dad, don't kiss me. It's not cool if my dad kisses me. So at some point, the social environment starts to maybe dampen your enthusiasm a little bit. And that's where culture comes in. And culture actually decides if you can show your enthusiasm or not. It's like probably the same, we all maybe had that moment where we told a joke in a group and nobody laughed. You know, that awkward moment. And you probably won't tell that joke again, ever. You know? But if everybody's really laughing, you will tell the joke again and again. So your enthusiasm can be fired up by the group or either be extinguished. So, and it's not only with children, it's also, for example, with the world we live in. We've built all these negative systems. I mean, education is about not getting a bad grade. If you have 1 bad grade on your report, that will be the attention. That will be the things you talk about. Look at journalism. It's all about negative news. There's so much positive news. We live in the most safe, in the most prosperous time ever. But it's all about the bad news. I'll give you an example. And also with companies. I'll give you an example. This is the first poster you see when you go to England. Because when you land at London City Airport, you've left the plane, this is the first poster you see. Do you want to complain? So you had a great flight, you're looking forward to a weekend of London, and they want you to complain. And obviously you're there, you're like in a foreign country, you don't want to be rude, so you try to make up something, and maybe you wanted another sandwich or another magazine. But actually, maybe you were like really enthusiastic, but you can't there's no question about where you can show your appreciation. So what do you think that the feedback is for the border agency of their clients? They will get negative feedback. And what do you think the employees of the border agency will think of their customers at some point? They're all complaining people. they probably don't like them anymore at some point. They start to get distant from them. That's not the way to become more customer-centric. So I started to turn it all around and start to look for the most enthusiastic customers. Those customers who are not only enthusiastic, but also share their enthusiasm and influence other people with their enthusiasm. They're infectious. So that's what I call a super promoter. So those are the clients who are bringing new clients in for you. Those are the employees who talk about your company positively in their social environment. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today. Why is it relevant? It's not only a flower power story. More and more research shows that the percentage of super promoters is actually a prediction of your success in the future. If you have a lot of people talking about you in a positive way, you will create more business. It's probably obvious, isn't it, for entrepreneurs like you. But also, it's very motivational. It's very inspiring to talk to your most enthusiastic customers. And even for your strategy, it's important. Because if you're only focusing on the competitors, like we heard today, I think, from one of the greatest entrepreneurs, is that if you only focus on your competitors, you will only become mediocre. And focus on that, what you're good about, and that is where people go enthusiastic about. And also, there are really great co-creators. I've done a lot of super promoter projects, also in India, for Philips, for example. People traveled for 2 days to be with the company to co-create a new product. So they want to be there, and they have a lot of intelligence. And it's becoming more and more important. Why? Because we are in a world where exponential growth is becoming more and more important. And we are more and more connected. So this is becoming a more important element. And we underestimate the power of exponential growth. Say, for example, only 5 people today are really excited about my presentation afterwards. And you're so excited that you go home and you tell all your friends, oh, I saw the presentation of Rijn Vogelaar and it was really good. And you have influence as well. So they become excited as well. They didn't see the presentation, but they become enthusiastic as well. And we do that in 5 steps. Then maybe by the end of the weekend, with only 5 steps, only 5 people take 5 steps sharing their enthusiasm. We have 3,000 people who are enthusiastic. And then maybe we have next week where you're going to do your business, or you talk to a lot of people, and those people start talking to people. So in another 5 steps, so maybe by the end of next week, more than almost 10 million people will know of my presentation, just because 5 of you were so enthusiastic. I don't know where you are exactly, your 5 people, but really I thank you for that, for bringing all this enthusiasm into India. Well, obviously, this is a bit hypothetical. This is not going to happen. If I do 1 or 2 steps, I'm probably already doing really well. But this is not hypothetical for a lot of organizations. We are in a world of exponential organizations. These companies were not grown by advertisement. These companies were grown, as we heard this morning, like TiECON. I mean, it was not about advertisement. It's about doing something really great, believing in something, and then people start talking about you, and then you can grow in an exponential way. A lot of these companies grew bigger in 5 years than Philips did in 100 years. So this is what exponential growth is for me. But in organizations, we don't focus on enthusiasm. We focus on problems and problem solving and problem identification, most of us. We have quality systems, we have like complaint handling, and not a lot of companies have enthusiasm handling. It's complaint handling that you have. You have customer dissatisfaction research. And in the end, we might even get a little bit blind to the enthusiasm that is in the company and around the company. And maybe even as an entrepreneur, we might lose our own enthusiasm when we grow bigger. Because at some point, if your company grows bigger, you become a manager instead of an entrepreneur. And I've been a manager for many years. I don't hope I insult anyone, but like a manager is a problem solver. So you solve one problem, and then you go to the next problem, and you solve that problem, and then maybe one day there's no problem, and you take a day off, or you relax for a little bit. Because an enthusiastic customer is no problem. An enthusiastic employee is no problem. I think we should focus on that because that's where the goal is. Most of us focus on improvement. It sounds noble, but it means that we focus on problems. We focus on complaints. And especially in my part of the world, enthusiasm is considered a little bit naive. I mean, in Northern Europe, we have to be serious. We're not paying you to be enthusiastic. We're paying you to solve problems. Well, in the end, creating enthusiasm is probably the way to success. So we have a world where enthusiasm is scarce. We have companies where we don't focus on it. I tried to have an analogy of an industry where the enthusiasm is still pure. And that's where we go to music. I think these are the 3 steps that are important in the dynamics of enthusiasm. I'll explain it first from a musician's perspective. First, you have the flame. So say you're a musician and at 12 years, when you're 12 years old, you listen to jazz for the first time. And you really get excited about it. This is the music that you want to play. You maybe can't sleep at night because you're so excited. The next day you run off to the record store to buy all the records of the great players. And then you start to copy them. And at the end you become good enough to create your own music. Put your soul in it. That's a flame process. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll find other musicians who have the same kind of flame. They like the same kind of music. And maybe you start a band. It doesn't mean that you have to have the same qualities. Probably if you start a band, it's probably useful to have different qualities. If everybody plays a flute, it's hard to start a band. That's the flow. You make a harmony. And then the flood is when the crowd goes wild. Everybody starts to sing along with your song, which is the gold medal, I think, for a musician. So those are the 3 steps. And I think as an entrepreneur, you also have those 3 steps. The flame is when you came up with the idea of your company. Probably maybe you couldn't sleep at night as well because you were so excited. You thought about something to improve in this world, to make something better or more beautiful. Then the flow is with your team and with some of your customers as well. You create a flow. And then the flood is when the market goes wild. Everybody starts talking about you in a positive way. You don't have to advertise anymore because the customers bring in new customers for you, which is the ideal situation. But first of all, we go to back to 1985 to listen to some music where the flame, flow and flood, I think, is happening in this 2 minutes of music. So I don't think we have to discuss the flame of Freddie Mercury. I think it's obvious. I mean, he was really into it that day, and the band was really into it, so they had the flow. Every band member was on board, and even the headline said, Queen won Live Aid, so it was like they had the best performance ever. And obviously the crowd is going wild. I mean, it's like they're moving like one organism. And when we study the dynamics of enthusiasm within such a concert, it starts on stage. If Freddie Mercury is having a bad day, it's not going to happen. If one of the band members is having a bad day, there won't be any harmony. It's not going to happen. If the audience is having a bad day, it's not going to happen. So you need all the 3 elements. And it starts on stage, but then you have like the people in the first rows. Those are where the fans are. They waited for 3 or 4 hours to be close to their idols. And when Freddie Mercury say, clap your hands, they will go first. And you see the wave of enthusiasm going from back to forth. And maybe in the back there are some people who don't really like it. They're drinking something and I'm not going to go to Queen the next time. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. It's good that they don't come to the next concert because they don't like your music. So let only the fans come to your stage. Let them go to Metallica if they like Metallica. And companies actually work the other way around, most companies. They try to get in new customers with advertising. Doesn't matter what kind of customers, if they like classical music, if they like rap music, if they like rock music, just bring them all in. And then we do customer dissatisfaction research. So I'll ask one of the hard rock people, what do you think we can improve? Well, play more hard rock. Okay, so we make a report and we will discuss it in the management team. What do our customers want? So they want us to play more hard rock. And in the end, we become a mediocre hard rock band. Just like all the rest of us. Because we're all doing the same. Instead of just like playing from the soul, trying to focus on the super promoters. Most companies don't even know they're super promoters. The people who really like them. Because all the systems are focusing on the problems, not on the people who are liking you. So maybe one of the messages for today is like reach out to those super promoters. Get them on board, listen to them, and make them part of your team. Okay, now we're going to discuss a couple of elements of enthusiasm. The first one, which might be a bit surprising after watching Freddie Mercury, is that enthusiasm is something very vulnerable. Obviously, Freddie Mercury just showed us how powerful it can be, but every musician went on stage for the first time, playing his song. Well, nobody knows him. And probably most people in the pub are just like turning the back on him and drinking a beer because they don't really like music or they don't know him. And what do you do then? And you're singing there about your soul and about your love life and you're giving everything and nobody's listening. Actually, they've done research and the best way to predict, the factor that predicts success of musicians is what is stamina. Do you go on the next time if nobody's listening to you? Do you try to go on and move on to the next level? And at some point you create enthusiasm and the crowd's going to get bigger. But that's going to be difficult. I don't know if you know this man, Nick Drake. Not a lot of people know him, but he's considered one of the best singer-songwriters of all time. He died at a very young age, and almost nobody bought his records when he lived 40 years ago. And why was that? Because he didn't dare to go on stage. So nobody knew him. He tried it a couple of times in the bars in UK, but everybody was drinking and nobody was listening to his very vulnerable music. So he stopped trying it and nobody listened to it. But nowadays, he's considered one of the best singer-songwriters and his albums are selling very good. So I think this is the moment where we get our musician on stage, where Krishna is going to play for you one of Nick Drake's songs to honor this singer-songwriter.
Hello, check. Monitor, can I have a little more, please? A little more guitar, please. Okay, good afternoon again. Some of you must be going like, this kid again. So, I'm going to go straight into it. This is Saturday Sun, and it's by Nick Drake. Saturday sun came early one morning, and the sky is so clear and blue, and Saturday sun came without warning, so no one knew what to do. And Saturday sun, with people and faces didn't seem much in their day. When I remember these people and faces, they were really too good in their way. Saturday sun, come and see me today. And think about stories, the reason circling through about people, their season and time, returning again and again, and again and again. Saturday sun turn to Sundays, Sundays rain. So Sunday sun and the Saturday sun wept for a day gone by.
Thank you very much, Krishna. That was beautiful. So a musician has a flame, and I think every entrepreneur has a flame, and I think we have to be careful to not lose our flame. So, and to create super promoters, you can also try to find and share your flame stories. Who is already enthusiastic about you? Which people are enthusiastic about you? Which employees are sharing their stories? Which maybe partners are sharing their stories? Suppliers. Try to find those stories and make them even a little bit bigger, because that's when the flow is starting. Then we go from the flame to the flow. Other people become excited too. So how do we create a flow? How can we make sure that the team is in harmony, that we create flow? Well, we have a lot of research about this in positive psychology. There are actually 3 elements. We have to challenge people on their strength. If you do something that you're already doing, and then you're challenged on it, then there's a good recipe for flow. It has to be pleasurable, which is kind of a state of mind, and you need feedback. Even negative feedback is better than no feedback. You need feedback if you create flow, but especially positive feedback is one of the things that you really can help people to get into flow. I'll give you an example of an industry that's really good at this, gaming. I mean, it's one of the themes of this conference as well. So, games, I don't know who of you is really big in World of Warcraft, for example, the online game. I'm not, but maybe some people, I see some young people who are really good in that. If you look at those online games, Jane McGonnell wrote a book about that. She's a professor in gaming, and she's also very high in World of Warcraft, so she knows what she's talking about. In her book, she writes that in the United States, the average 21-year-old boy has already played more than 10,000 hours of games. And so it's like an exodus of young people leaving the real world, going into the virtual world. This is happening. And why are those games so attractive? Because in those games they have to solve more difficult problems than their homework. And we can't make them to do their homework, but they play games for like a whole night or all weekend. And what is that? It is exactly the elements that the flow research shows. Every time you solve a problem, you get a new problem that you can just do. If it's too difficult, you quit. If it's too easy, it's boring. You quit as well. So you can only keep going if you just get a new challenge that you can just do. It's pleasurable, obviously. And maybe one of the most important things, you get feedback constantly. Points, bleeps, levels. Constantly you get feedback on what you're doing. And that's addictive. So one of those things that you can do to give feedback to your employees, for example, give compliments. We've done research in the Netherlands on more than 1,000 employees, and one of the things that really predicted flow was if people received a compliment once in a while. Obviously their boss is an important one, but also from colleagues and obviously customers. If you receive a compliment from a customer, it'll give you flow. And one of I think the most beautiful results of the research was not only people who receive a compliment experience flow, also the people who give a compliment experience flow. So when I realized that, and I was still the CEO of the company, I started to give myself a compliment quota. I said I have to give 3 compliments a day. Maybe it sounds a little bit instrumental, and you think, well, shouldn't a compliment be spontaneous? Well, a compliment doesn't have to be spontaneous. It has to be sincere, which is different. Because sometimes you're so busy, you forget to give a compliment to someone. I remember that I once had to send a report to a client, and then my laptop crashed down. And then the people from IT came in, and they fixed it. But I was so stressed that I didn't have time to say thank you. And so I just went on with the day. But at the end of the day, I thought, okay, I have my compliment quota. I went to the guys from IT, and I said, thank you. You really saved my day. You saved my client relationship, maybe. I don't know if you ever... If you ever gave an IT person the compliment, but you don't know what you're up to, and they start crying. I mean, they never experience something like that. They never receive a compliment. They're always there when there's stress. So that's maybe another good thing to do tomorrow when you go to the guys from IT. One of the other win-win situations is that when employees are allowed to be more customer-centric, they experience more flow. Because we are made to help other people. So if people have the room and the space to do that, they experience more flow themselves. So that's another win-win situation. And the next part is creating flood. But before we go there, I will ask Krishna to do another bit of music. Right, maybe I'll just go on with my presentation a little bit, and then we'll just do it. If the mic stand is here, then we'll do the next bit of music. No problem. Because we come to the third part, is creating a flood, where the market goes wild, when people start talking about you. And that's where the super promoters come in. And you need customers that are so enthusiastic that they start talking to you, to the rest of the world. And that's where I'll go on after the music. Yeah, a little more? Okay. It's hard to stay in the flow in this way, but I'll do my best. Okay, so those super promoters, they create the waves of enthusiasm. What is it I think you should do? I think you should define and find your super promoters. Who are your personal super promoters? Who are your company's super promoters? Who are the product super promoters who talk about your products already? Can you go in? Okay, you're going.
Sorry about that. That was my fault. Sorry, sound team. Can you guys hear the guitar outside? Can you guys hear the guitar outside? I'll have a little more guitar, please, monitors. This one's called Stop This Train. It's by John Mayer. No, I'm not colorblind. I know the world is black and white. More guitar, please. Try to keep it open, man. Just can't sleep on this tonight. Stop this train. Wanna get off and go home again. Can't take this beat, it's moving. No, I can, but honestly, won't someone stop this train? More guitars, please. Don't know how else to say it. Don't wanna see my parents go. One generation's led the way to find a life out on my own. Stop this train. I wanna get off and go home again. Can't take this beat, it's moving. No, I can't, but honestly, I want someone stop this train. So scared of getting older. Game to find a way to say my life has just begun. Stop this train. I wanna get off and go home.
can't take this beat that's moving in. No, I can't, but honestly, won't someone set this straight?
Thank you.
I suggest we leave the microphone on stage because we're going to use it another time. Yeah, leave it. Okay, so find your super promoters and try to assist them. Should we only focus on the positive then? Should we only focus on positive customers? I think that's not true. I think we should balance it. On the one hand, we need a feedback loop on the negative, where we solve our problems. And obviously, if you do that well, extremely well, you can create enthusiasm. Sometimes for some companies, like for example, when you're in insurance, something has to happen before you create enthusiasm. If you have an insurance and nothing happens, you will never give a 7 or a 9 or a 10. So if you solve problems well, you can create enthusiasm for certain. And obviously you want to improve your processes also. But at the same time, why not do something with the positive customers as well? For example, show appreciation. I fly with KLM for most of the time when I fly to other countries. I give them, when I come back in the Netherlands, I say to them, I say on Twitter, I'm back in the Netherlands and I had a good flight with #KLM. They always give me a response within 3 or 4 hours. Right? They say, okay, it's nice that you had a good flight, and the next time we're going to do our best again that you have another good flight. They are the only air company that up till now responded to a positive tweet. They sometimes respond, most of them respond to a negative tweet, but none of them respond to positive tweets. Almost no company do that. 9 out of 10 companies don't respond to positive tweets. Why not just respond and say thank you? If you only say thank you, you know that you're heard, and the next time you will use in the tweet the hashtag again. I always use KLM now. I don't use the other airlines. And obviously you can learn a lot from your positive customers as well. What are you doing extremely well? Which of your employees is performing really well? So you can learn from it, you can understand it, and you can inspire your other employees, or you inspire yourself to do more of that. So where can you find your super promoters? First of all, of course, in surveys. If you do customer satisfaction research or net promoter score, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Or maybe in your CRM system. Sometimes you can find them in your complaint handling, because sometimes it's the only way where a customer can reach you is by giving you a complaint. So they will give you a compliment on the complaint form. And sometimes you find your super promoters over there, strangely enough. And obviously on social media. If you have a survey, a lot of companies these days use the Net Promoter Score, for example. I was inspired by that as well, because you ask the question, how likely is it that you would recommend us? And then the extremely likely, the 9 and the 10s are called the promoters. But normally when companies implement this, they will only focus on the lower grades. They will see, okay, who is giving a low score? Can we improve on the detractors to the passives and then onto the promoters? And that's where the promoters get no attention at all. So I think zoom in on the 9s and the 10 and learn what you're doing really well there, so you can create more 9s and 10s. You won't learn it from the detractors how to create 9s and 10s, you will learn it from the promoters. So not a lot of companies are doing the positive loop. Obviously, I mean, this is what in India, in one of the hotels in Gurgaon, if you really like our food, compliment our chefs. Just ask customers to give positive feedback as well. Or if you have like a complaint form, ask for a complaint or a compliment. So people are motivated to also give you the positive feedback. One of the larger examples that we did research in India with Philips super promoters. So they already had the Net Promoter Score system, so we knew who the promoters were. And then we recontacted those customers and asked them more questions. When did you share your enthusiasm? On what occasion? How many people did you influence with your enthusiasm? And one of the interesting results was from the research was that super promoters talked a lot about Philips during weddings, which was a surprising insight. And when we dived into it, obviously, weddings are the major life event in India, I think. I mean, it's important with us in the Netherlands, but with you, it's even a bigger event. And apparently, it's very important that you give a good present. So if you give a good present, then you have scored a lot of points. And Philips, because it's a well-liked brand, if you give a Philips product, well, you're doing well. And it does get a broad price range as well. So if you don't have a lot of money, then you give a razor. If you have a lot of money, then you give a plasma television. So it was an interesting insight for Philips. And they tried to think of how can we help our super promoters with deciding for a wedding present. And it's interesting. So they're not selling their products. Super promoters are not selling your products. That's not their issue. So you couldn't give them a voucher and say, okay, I'll try to sell my product at a wedding. No, the issue of the super promoter is giving a good gift. So if you can help your super promoters to do that, then they are really becoming more enthusiastic. So that's actually what they did. This is an example from the Netherlands. This is a website of a super promoter of a hardware store. And this is Ria. Ria is a super promoter of the Action. She built this website and she has now 270,000 followers. And at one point the Action saw this and they had only 700 followers in their corporate Facebook site. So then they just went to Ria and said, we're going to take our website down. You do it. And when Ria puts a product on her website, they have to put in the trucks, they see it in the database, and they have to send the trucks to the stores to get in more products. Ria sometimes goes to shops in the Netherlands where the Action is, and the employees want to be in a picture with her. Ria is a pop star in the Action world, you can say. And I think the Action really managed to do that well. They did... sometimes Ria works in a shop for a day. She does all kind of great things. Sometimes she organized the fan day for the Action. And she's not an employee. She's just a fan. So, and the Action is now doing really well in the Netherlands. And sometimes companies do it the other way around. This is IKEA. IKEA, this is a website, IKEA Hackers, which is also by an IKEA fan. And she bought the standard IKEA products and then started to design a little bit, paint it, and put it on a blog. Tens of thousands of people started to do this as well. And so they bought some IKEA products and they designed it a little bit. IKEA, which is normally a company that is very good at customer excellence, they sent the lawyers to IKEA Hackers to get the website offline because they used the brand without their permission. So what do you think happened the next day? All those super promoters became anti-promoters and they started to be really angry with IKEA. So it shows you that it's pretty hard for some companies to cope with these super promoters. They're not on their pay list. You can't say, okay, this is my PR release, will you put it on your website this way? They have their own dynamics. So we have to start co-creating with super promoters some more, I think. Another example for co-creation. In the old days, Lego did the same. 20 years ago, there was this artist who made these great sculptures of Lego. Lego also sent the lawyers to him, and he had to stop doing that because they didn't want to use the brand. And obviously, super promoters don't like that. And Lego wasn't doing that well at that moment. And then a few years later, they turned it around completely. And now they let the fans do everything. So for example, you have Lego IDs, where you can send your own Lego ID, and if you have enough likes, then they will take it into production. And when it's taken into production, it's probably the best compliment that you can give to a super promoter. But you can also get 5% of the revenue. And some of the top 10 Lego products are now created by a Lego fan. And if you create a top 10 Lego product around the world, and you get 5% of the revenue, you don't have to work anymore. And Lego doesn't have to have hundreds of developers that they had in the old days. So I think that is a great way of using it. These are some ideas from Lego ideas from India. These were some really well-selling products. What they also have is Lego events. This is a Lego event in the Netherlands. I took the picture myself. They're really big. All kind of sculptures are taken. And one hall is like reserved for the Lego fans. Those are guys, grown-ups, who play with Lego every weekend. And they came to the Lego events for 2 weeks. They took 2 weeks off to show their creations to the public. They only got some vouchers from Lego to buy more Lego. That's the only thing that they were paid. So you have Lego fans creating new products, you have Lego fans selling your products, and this way, and now Lego is obviously doing very well, being a $12 billion company at the moment. So this is basically the theory: find your flame, what is your story, what is your purpose in the world, also by listening to your enthusiastic customers and listening to your enthusiastic partners. Create flow within your employees, because if they become enthusiastic, they will create more customer enthusiasm, and try to understand your super promoters and support them. I think we have one more piece of music and one more film. Will we have time to do that? Is that okay? Yes?
We have a minute and a half. So.
Yeah, just, but we have a bit of music and just one film of 2 minutes. Can we do that? Or should we skip the music? Yes, is that okay? Okay. Krishna, yeah, come on.
Okay, who's ready to sing? Nobody? Come on. Who's ready to sing? Yeah. I can't hear you. Who's ready to sing? I am. Who's ready to sing? Alright, let's go. Thank you, sir. Oh, oh, oh! Oh, oh, oh! When he was here, I could hear everybody from the back. So I know what you guys can do. Come on! Oh, oh, oh! Oh, oh, oh! This is flood, so as Rijn said, every musician's dream is to have the crowd sing with him. Can you guys fulfill my dream today? Yes. Okay, all 8 of you, come on. What are you guys in the back? Can you? Okay. No, oh, oh! Oh, oh, oh! No, oh, oh! No, oh, oh! Well, you turned at me, you bet I felt it. I tried to reach you, but you said I thought I melted. Fell right through the cracks, and I'm trying to get back. Before the news run out, I'll be giving it my best. There's nothing gonna stop me but divine intervention. Reckless to get my turn to let someone learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Oh, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. Put your hands together, go fast. No, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. I've been spending way too long picking my tongue in the mirror and bending over backward just to try to see it clearer. My breath fogged up the glass, so I drew the face and I laughed. I guess that I'll be saying this, there ain't no better reason to rid yourself of vanities. Just go with the season, it's what we aim to do. Our name is our virtue, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate our time. It's sure this is our fate. I'm yours. Oh, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. Everybody go on. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. No, oh, oh. That's right, come on, everybody. No, oh, oh. 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 Okay, thank you. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tai. Thank you, Rijn. Thank you so much. I've had a wonderful time. Thank you.